Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to do this amazing terrarium card. This set of dies is so cute. It is like a trip back in time to my childhood when we were all obsessed with both macrame and terrariums. I cannot tell you how many terrariums my sister and I made. Now look at this awesome cover plate. I'm going to have 2 videos with this. So stay tuned because they're very, very different. And then this beautiful succulent set that has all of the sentiments with matching dies, as well as some beautiful succulent images in that. I won't be using the succulent images today, but I will be using the sentiments. I'm also using a piece of stamp packaging today, so that's incredibly useful stuff. Don't throw it away. For a long time I threw it away. Now I just use it on craft projects. Now I have die cut a bunch of the little succulents and plants from the die set. Little grasses, some flowers, some foliage. And this is how I'm going to build my little scene. Now you'll notice they also emboss. They have little designs embossed in them that make it much easier for you to do color and shading. So I'll be using Karin markers today, just a few markers, just like 5 markers, and shading these. And I'm going to show you how to use your glass mat for blending. Now this is a Magnetic Glassboard Studios mat. I do have a coupon code for 20% off. I love this thing. I have sort of struggled with craft mats for years. I finally found a great one that was a non-slip mat that I love, but that one's hard to find now, and that is actually underneath my glass mat, but I love the glass mat because it's magnetic. So anyway, I'm using some of the neons today because I'm going to have a large black component of the card, and I really wanted these to be very glowy. So like this neon pink is so beautiful, and that's going to be sticking out of my terrarium. I have a neon green, a neon yellow, and I'm using these with a couple of more muted colors. The blue is one of the Karin neons as well. Now I'm using the embossing guides to tell me where to put my different colors, and this is not complicated coloring. That's why I've sped it up. It's very simple. And you can do palette blending by scribbling on your glass mat and picking it up with a lighter marker, and it will just fade as you color and give you very natural shading with like 0 work. Now be sure and clean your glassboard before moving on to the next phase. You don't want to get ink on your project if you have something that activates it. So next, the fun part of the card is not an invention of mine. It is an invention of Jennifer McGuire's, the crafty genius. She does an amazing, super easy pop-up card. And you know I'm not big into interactive features because I'm terrible at math, but she made this very, very easy. So I will put the dimensions down below, and you can please check out her video on pop-up cards because it's easy as pie and she makes everything so simple. So what I've done is I've used the same terrarium die to cut a hole in the front panel that I've scored and folded, and I also used the wavy cover plate die. How fun is that? So it's textured as well. I'm putting a little bit of adhesive on the back of this die cut. This is actually a piece of glitter paper. And that's because I'm going to be putting the stamp packaging down on top of this. I am going to secure those little tassels as well with a piece of Scotch tape, just for a little extra security. Now I'm cutting up the packaging. I use this packaging all the time for no-line shakers, which is the only kind of shakers I can really do. And so definitely keep that around. Now I want this to be sticking out of the terrarium, so I'm actually weaving it through to the front before I do the inside elements of the card. So that little bit of adhesive that I put down there can help me stick some of these little elements so that they're flat against the front of the card and then also peeking out. that's what's going to give this pop-up like a shadow box feel, because the folds on the side of the card are going to mean that the ones that I put on the inside are farther away, and it just gives it a ton of dimension. Really fun. So that adhesive, you can see where that comes in handy, me taking that extra step to put adhesive on the back of the terrarium die. That holds my little piece of stamp packaging in place. And then I can add tape for a little bit of extra security, but that helps me put my whole card design together before I commit to taping it down. Now you might have to adjust your little die in the window there, no big deal. Now the back side of the card is cut and scored exactly the same way. And like, I'll put the dimensions on the screen. And I'm going to put these two together, and you can see how dramatic that is to have a black backing to your pop-up card. And you just need to take a moment to decide where you want all of the little scenic elements on the inside to be. Now you can add dimensionals so that you actually have 3 layers here. So you have the frontmost layer, which is probably 1/4 of an inch raised up with the pink flower and the little succulent. Then I have a little dimensional popping this one grass up. And then the rest of my elements are going to be flat against the black cardstock. So you really have a true shadow box feel with multiple levels of dimension. Now for these, I'm using liquid glue because I want to be able to press the card closed and wiggle it around just a little bit. This glue dries clear, so you don't have to worry about seeing it when your project is finished. Now I will pop some of the other elements. I love how some are tall and some are short, so it really gives you like a architectural feel to your little succulent arrangement. So once again, I will just check this, see how it's going, and I like to kind of press the card together so I can see what it really looks like when it's closed as well. And then on this one, I'm going to put another one on the inside, sort of behind that little pink flower. And I think I really like the way that looks. Now I have one little piece left over, but I have a way to use it that you'll see, but look how dimensional that is. That is such a fun little scene. Really takes me back to my childhood. Now to ensure that the whole shadow box thing stays together while I am drying my glue, I just like to use little binder clips to make sure that it doesn't slide out of place. Because that thing we love about glue, that little bit of wiggle room, can also mean that it can wiggle while it's drying. And I want to get all the wiggles out with my binder clips. So you just line up the flat portions with the glue on them, and then I'll just pop a couple binder clips on there, and that will be ready to dry securely. Same on the other side, line those up. And again, this is 2 score lines. This is how you're making this pop up. It's so easy. Could not be easier. And it's a good standard size of paper too. So now you can see how the little pop-up mechanism works. You can see that scene coming to life, and I will save my extra little succulent for the sentiment. So I'm going back to this succulent stamp set. I love that all of their sentiments have dies. That is like my one wish for every sentiment set I have. I need dies for all of them. It just helps me design my cards to be able to have that sentiment stamped on a separate piece of paper and something that I can move around to fit my design. It's just my favorite. So, way to go, honeybee. You're geniuses over there. Okay, so I'm just using the Hello Friend. I tend to keep my sentiments very generic. I feel like you can always use a thank you card, because even if you're not thanking someone for something like a gift, you can say, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for texting me the other day, that kind of thing. So I think that thank you is super versatile. But other than that, I like to keep them all occasion, because then I can just grab a card out of my stash and send it if I need to. So I will tape down my die and use my adorable little die cutting machine. Oh my gosh, so cute. So tiny. I love that it folds up. Now I've cut this down just a little bit to go through my die cutting machine, and I use the same method. I only ever cut into one plate. I always leave one plate pristine, and that's the side that gets the non-cutting side of the die to keep my die flat and make sure that it doesn't flex when it's die cutting and give me the best, most consistent cuts. So now here, my one little leftover succulent is not an orphan anymore. I am going to have it peeking out just a little bit behind the sentiment, and I think that adds a lot to the front of this already super fancy, fun card. But for as fancy as it was darn easy, so you can thank Jennifer McGuire for that. I hope you try one of these. If I'm making a 3D interactive card, you know it's super easy. So 5 stars to Jennifer there. Okay, so now everything is dry and I can take the binder clips off, and I really recommend getting a good straight edge Teflon bone folder and just extra creasing down those edges. That really helps it go into the envelope more easily. And you can see it goes in flat and comes out dimensional with a beautiful little shadow box terrarium scene. I am in love with it. So here's the finished card. Head over to my blog for more information and a giveaway. And thanks so much for watching.